Tallboys and Trackmasters is brought to you by Expert Exhaust. Expect more for your money. MTB Shock Dock, your choice for suspension needs. High Gear Success. From helping racers get sponsored to motorsports event operation and promotion, shift your passion into high gear. Miracle Works Detailing. No cars too dirty. And by Cycle Mart, your motorcycle parts store. It's Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for episode 62 of Tallboys
and Trackmasters.
Oh yeah. Oh. Lifeblood. Especially on a hot
always a highlight.
Always a highlight, especially on a hot freaking week like we've had this week, man. Holy crap.
We lucked out and got some rain.
Yeah, I don't think it made a difference though on anything.
No, not really.
Hopefully we get a little bit more tomorrow. And, you know, as a lot of people know, it's our busiest week of the year, bub. It's the 304 detour time.
It's the weekend.
You ready to throw down?
Oh, I'm there.
What are you going to be doing this weekend down there?
I want to be doing some drinking of mineral waters.
Lots of mineral water drinking.
Lots of mineral water.
Stay hydrated.
Be doing the pre-route. Make sure the areas and stuff are up on all the public places. Make sure everything's good. So, you know, the first guys through, the last guys through all have a good solid route that's marked and ready to roll.
Love it. Love it. It's our busiest time of the year, and it's all going to come to fruition. And hopefully everybody enjoys it.
A lot of behind the scenes work from a lot of good people.
Yes, it is. Well, how was your time away?
Pretty good. Can't complain too much.
Do anything cool?
Yeah. I'm one step closer to being old. So
on two fronts.
Had another birthday.
Happy birthday.
And Shiloh, my fiance, got me a written history of Hodaka by Ken Smith. So ever since we met with Tom McKee, I've been interested in Hodaka motorcycles. This has stuff you really can't find anywhere else. Diagrams, engineering drawings, the history of the company.
Pictures for people who can't read.
Really, yeah, as soon as I learn how to read, it's over. But really recommend this book for anybody that's into obscure motorcycles.
That definitely looks like a good thing there.
So,
and your other old man love interest.
Yeah, so I took my Trail 90 across Canaan Loop.
How was that?
It was fantastic. I'd do it again. Most fun I've had on a bike in a while, actually, because it's just so ridiculous.
I'm 100% on board with that. Taking something that was not meant to do that and do something like that is
that's kind of, I don't know. It was built for something like that.
Yeah,
just at the speeds that it wants to go.
Well, Canaan Loop might have been a little bit easier back in when that bike was first produced too.
Maybe. I took advantage of the fact there's almost no water over there. Those creek crossings are like only 2 inches deep now.
Well, and the thing's so light, if you get stuck, you just pick it up, carry it out.
Oh yeah, I got the front end down in a mud hole and just like straddled it and picked up on the handlebars, and it was nice.
Well,
what have you been up to?
Oh, just 3 or 4 detour, living the dad life, on vacation this week from work, but not from work because, get stuff ready for the ride.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. I hope everybody else is excited. We're excited to have an awesome guest on the show with us tonight. Joining us is the head guy for Lost at Last Adventures. He's the curator of the Great Ohio Adventure Trail and knows all about riding in the Buckeye State. Let's bring on Mr. Brad McFadden. What's up, man?
Howdy, fellas.
Oh, hanging in there,
Yeah.
How's things your way?
Oh, hot and humid.
Yeah,
I was reading about some petroglyphs they just deciphered that said, "Man, it is humid in July." So all the way back then too. But yeah, life's busy. Life's good. Getting together another group ride coming up in August on one of the goat loops. So yeah, I feel you on a smaller scale with putting together these rides and events, and obviously you get out riding, it's a great time, but just the preparation, it's stressful, but it's rewarding at the end when everybody says, "Oh, you know what, that was a pretty good time."
Yeah. We always talk about, people come up to us and talk about how great of a ride it was and everything. And by that point, we've ran every trail like at least 5 times. It's gotten old to us at that point, but as long as everybody that comes out has a good time, that's the goal.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Brad, you're ears deep in riding in Ohio in this area here, so you're definitely a guy that we wanted to sit down and chat with. And I want to say once again, thank you so much for doing this with us. Let's start out with the basics. Where were you born and raised at?
Born and raised here in the Buckeye State, West Central Ohio, just north of Dayton. So unfortunately, there's not a lot of good adventure riding opportunities right near me. I mean, it's prime farmland, so if you got a John Deere, you're good, but a KTM, not as good, But yeah, here in the Dayton area, and then 2012, I joined the Army, and it was so funny. I went to basic and then the medic school down in San Antonio, and was active duty and everything. They were giving everybody their duty stations, and I was just young and single and all that. I was like, man, I'm gonna get to go somewhere cool like Germany or Italy or Korea, and and they're talking, and there's like, Sanchez, you're going to Italy, and they said, McFadden, you're going to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And I was like, what, Kentucky? I was like, hold on. I've been to Kentucky before, but so it was nice because I was an hour from LBL, laying between the lakes there, and an hour from Nashville, Tennessee, but also like 6 hours from home. So
nice.
I was close enough to home to where, something big going on, I could always sneak away and go home, but far enough away to be like, oh, hey, sorry, can't help you move this weekend. I'm just that far away, But yeah, it was great. I I was there for 4 years, and then I moved back to the Buckeye State, and here we are. But I will say that, like, being away or spending time in another area, it gives you a greater appreciation for the place you left, because there was nothing I wanted to do more when I was growing up than get out of Ohio, go anywhere, go to LA and be a movie star or whatnot, but just being away and just gives you a greater appreciation for home. And now I'm back in the Buckeye State, and yeah, it's a great place to be.
Yeah, I think if you can get away and see the world from a different point of view, it does give you a greater perspective on everything. And I find that too. I've done trips to Puerto Rico and lots of different places, and it's hard for me to not realize that a lot of people don't have that same, waving at you or making sure you're okay kind of mentality that a lot of people in Appalachia have. So, that does make me appreciate home a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
I spent some time in Germany, spent some time out west, and the older I get and the more time I spend away from West Virginia, the more I just want to get back to it.
Right.
Brad, how did the riding start in your life? Was it something that you did as a kid? Was it something you did later in life?
So I rode four-wheelers growing up, just some local secret trails, things like that. And I never really did any like dirt biking or anything like that. But it was really crazy because, when I got out of the army, uh, it was wild because I got back from Afghanistan in October of 2015. November, I'm out of the army, and just away from a whole lifestyle, and living back home. And I kind of just began a search for something that would give me purpose, right? Something to bring joy, into my life, because I mean, I just spent 4 years, hanging out with great people, great experiences, all that. And then I was back to just kind of hanging out. So I just kind of started searching for hobbies and things to do. And I had a buddy that golfed. So I, picked up some golf clubs and started trying to get a hole in one, but I was not a good golfer and just wasn't it, and started skiing, bought some skis and some boots and hit the Mad River Mountain here in Ohio, which is just a little bunny hill compared to like snowshoe or something.
Yeah.
But that wasn't it either. And it was funny because I hit 30 about 5 years ago, and I was like, man, I'm 30 years old. Like, what am I doing? And like 2 weeks later, I get a phone call at like 10 o'clock at night and from my dad. And of course, my first thought is like, oh my God, grandma's dead or something, So I'm like, hey, like, everything okay? And he's like, Brad, do you want to buy enduro bikes and ride across the country on dirt roads on the Trans-America Trail? And I'm like, so grandma's okay? Like, and it wasn't the first idea he ever had, won't be the last, but I was like, oh, sure. Yeah, whatever. And like a week later, about a DR 650. And I was like, oh, I guess this is real, and figured I ought to buy a DR too, just to have to, have to carry so many tools and all that. So like a week after that, I picked up the DR and just began a whole crazy 5 years now.
That's a really cool origin story.
Yeah, for sure. So
Yeah.
was the TAT the first ever true like adventure anything that you guys did together, or did you do some prep before that?
Yeah. So of course got my endorsement, went to the safety class, which Ohio has a great program. It's like $50, and they got a whole wealth of instructors. I think Heather from High Gear Success, I think she's one of the instructors up here.
Yeah.
And anyway, we left in July of 2020, and like a month before, my dad's like, hey, you want to go down to Wayne National Forest and just practice for the TAT? I was like, sure, and we went to, of course, they're all OHV trails and rutted out, by now. But we went down there, and now I know I should have went to Door Run, but we went to Monday Creek, and I was slipping and sliding. It was my first time ever like off road, and I'm thinking like, man, if the Trans-America Trail is 6,000 miles of this, like, what am I doing? But yeah, like a month later, that was the first true adventure. Was our plan was to spend a week over the course of 5 years doing it. And of course, life happens and haven't got to finish it yet. But it was so crazy too, because so we started the trail in Ripley down in West Virginia.
Mhm.
And so my dad was there, some other guys, and one of his coworkers rode his bike up from Charlotte, North Carolina to join us. And I say that because an hour into the trip, guy from North Carolina is leading on one of those little 1+ roads. I can't remember the town, but it's not very far out of Ripley, but turns a corner and there's a dude on a tractor with his bucket, like decapitation level, and he's like, whoa. And the guy saw him, but he hit the bike and, totaled the bike, like a KTM 990 or something. And so obviously he was okay, but still I was like, wow, it's the first hour. And then one of the other guys went to my dad, was like, hey, it looks like you got a little bit of oil leak right there. He's like, okay, well, I'll ride into town with him and get it figured out. Y'all just go on. I'll meet you at the, hotel or campground or whatever. And then I get a text later and dad's like, I'm out, like oil is out of control, can't figure it out, I'm out. So I'm like, man, that was the first hour of the trip. But the rest of the week was, nothing short of life changing, for me, just getting to see all the things. And that was like the first step, into new adventure riding.
Well, props for sticking with it and not getting discouraged right off the bat.
Yeah, that's amazing. And your story is so similar to a guy that we interviewed, one of our first ever interviews, Billy Tayo. Him and his son, same deal. They were, hare scramble woods racers their whole life and decided, let's give this dual sport ADV thing a shot. And bought the TRF 450Ls, outfitted them, and did the TAT. That was their first ever dual sport or adventure thing. So it just blows my mind that there's people out there that are willing to risk the biscuit and just let's just go all in on the probably the hardest thing in North America to try.
So what makes for cool life experiences.
Sure does. How far did you get on the TAT on your trip?
So the first week we made it to Linville Gorge there in North Carolina. Beautiful area down there. And then we went down there for a second year. We made it to about I-75 down in Georgia. So that's about it. And then, after that, we just kind of went our kind of separate ways, because there's different groups of riders. There's guys that like to, they're go fast guys, and hey, look at that crazy hill up there. Yep. Let's just see if we can make it up. And then you got, and then you got some kind of sightseeing people. And admittedly, I'm a sightseeing guy. I'm like, oh, look at this historical marker, Loretta Lynn, had a flat tire here in 1950 or something. I'm that kind of guy. And we would just kind of went our separate way. And then I started focusing on Ohio. And someday I get out there, because, what Sam Carrera did, what he built, the legacy is crazy. And if I ever met that guy, I don't really get nervous, but I'd be like, oh my God, Sam, shaking like a leaf. But
it's funny you say that, because literally on my news feed about 2 hours ago, I was just scrolling and I saw that somebody had done a sit down interview with him. I haven't a chance to watch that yet, but
really?
I want to check that out. I'll share that on the page too here when we get done.
Oh, yeah.
Props to him, man. I can't imagine. We do we do two 50-mile loops and a 115-mile easy/intermediate loop. And, I've got some other GPX files that I've done. I can't imagine the logistics and the planning to do one across an entire country. That's just mind blowing.
Huge undertaking.
Yeah. It took me every bit of 2 years, to just lay the foundation for the Ohio Trail, let alone, 6,000 miles across the country. Then you got all those, those passing through property and agreements. And it's unreal to me.
Yeah. So you got started on a DR, or what bikes have you had since then?
I had the DR, and I just picked up a KTM 890 Adventure. So
nice.
The dream bike. Yeah.
That's getting to be really common, guys, especially going from a DR to a KTM Adventure bike in one step.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, because my dad actually picked up the R, and I have the regular, or the S, or whatever they call it. So, we literally go from the same bike to pretty much the same bike, But for me, the decision was really just, I wanted a bike that could get me comfortably across the state of Ohio. The DR, has gotten me every single place I've ever wanted to go, and I'm going to keep it in the stable for my round the world bike, ship it to Zimbabwe or something, pick it up, but the KTM, I'm just twin cylinder and just a little bit more roadworthy. It's been a dream.
Well, what we've heard people say is before, there's 3 inevitable things in life: death, taxes, and the DR 650. Correct?
Yep. Right.
I heard that one. Well, Brad, let's go into, the big elephant in the room here with the Great Ohio Adventure Trail, the GOAT. So I would love to hear about how that came to be, what some of the challenges and successes were that you had putting that together. And, obviously any loop or route, GPX file or what have you that has a name like that, I think that immediately draws attention to it. So that was that's a really good marketing and branding on your part too.
Yeah, it's cool how it kind of came together. It's funny. I've actually run into people out on the trail before, and they're like, "Hey, man, you're the goat." I'm like, "Well, no, Tom Brady is the goat. I'm just the guy who made a trail." But yeah, so there's my trail is the third long distance route in Ohio. So the big one is the Trans Ohio Trail. It's about 1,200 miles. Really great, area of Ohio. And there's also the Southern Ohio Adventure Loop, which is more Shawnee State Forest, Adams County, that kind of area. And in 2022, when, we weren't doing the Trans-America Trail anymore, me and my other sightseeing, riding buddy, Kevin, we just kind of got together, like, what are we going to do this year? And I was like, well, I heard about this Trans Ohio Trail, and the Southern Ohio Adventure Loop is kind of like my hometown route. It's only 2 hours to get there for me. So I'm like, well, what if we took those two loops and we just combined them into one big thing? So that's what we did for 8 days, and we did, and it was awesome. I had just as much fun on that trail as I had on the Tat. And I got back from that, and I was like, man, nobody's made like a those routes are just big loops, which is great. And I think I just watched some BDR movie or something. I was like, nobody's made a route from the Ohio River to Lake Erie, like from one place, to another, kind of like the Tat. Yeah. So I was like, I think I'm going to be that guy, and really just the whole idea of it was just kind of giving back. Cause I mean, just the ADV community up here. I mean, it's a lot bigger than you think. Adventure Riders Ohio is a great organization on Facebook. They put together rides and little, events and stuff, and just the people you meet and all that. I mean, I kind of felt it was, kind of maybe my duty to give back, after everything they gave me. So I went down to the river, and I was like, where am I going to start this thing, and I settled on Ripley, Ohio, because I wanted to highlight places of historical significance, or places that made Ohio a significant, place and worth seeing. And I stopped by the John P. Parker House on the river, and of course he was one of the conductors of the Underground Railroad. He would actually go into Kentucky and meet slaves running away for freedom. He'd help them get across the river. And I was like, well, this is the place to start. I mean, it's a huge, significant thing. And yeah, just from there, I just go out. I was driving a Chevy Cruze at the time, so I definitely ran into
that.
Right.
My fiance's had one we've been trying to get rid of for a few years.
Yeah. So I definitely went down a few roads, and I definitely had to back out of a few roads too. Yeah. But yeah, I just kind of started putting the framework together, and just wanted to highlight some of the cool, significant areas like Marietta. It was the first permanent settlement in the Northwest Territory. Really kind of the gateway to the American West and the birthplace of tourism in the U.S. And I was like, well, I got to go there, and eventually made my way to the lake, and went through the covered bridges there in Ashtabula County. And yeah, it just kind of came together just a weekend at a time over, the course of, really a couple of years. And I put it out last year, and of course you never know, you put something out and you don't know if people are going to like it. And not that I'm looking for, my place on the Mount Rushmore of people making routes or whatever, but like, you never know if people are, but I mean, I've had so many people like, man, this is great. And what really is rewarding to me is somebody's like, hey, I rode this trail and like, it was cool. And just, I was glad I got to see this iron furnace, and I never would have if I wouldn't have been on the Great Ohio Adventure Trail. I was like, cool. That's kind of gets me up in the morning.
Yeah, that's super rewarding, and a lot of hard work to put something together like that. So Brad, I know we were talking a little bit before the show started too. You've also made it a point to offer loops off of the goat itself for people like you were talking about that maybe they can't spend a whole week or 5-6 days at a time to do that. Was that something that came about here recently, and how many loops do you have off of your trail?
Yeah, so that kind of came together. It's hard for people to take 7 to 10 days off to complete the trail. I mean, the main route of the goat is 1,100 miles. It's actually specifically it's 1,111 miles, and I didn't do that on purpose. I just added. I was like, oh wait, this is cool, but it's hard for people to take off. And last fall, I was like, oh, I should put together just a group ride, for people and see the leaves and all that. And the idea was to meet at the Big Muskie Bucket, which of course is off the big drag line, the Big Muskie. And I put together a quick.
At some point.
Oh my gosh, it is. Yeah, it's awesome. It's just most people are like, a bucket, like what are you doing? But then you get there like, okay, this is crazy. Look how big these chains are, on this thing. But I put together a quick 100-mile loop because for me, 100 to 125, 30, miles in a day, that's good enough for me to get back to camp and, cook dinner and all that. But anyway, I threw together a quick 100-mile loop, and I actually kind of borrowed a little bit off of my pal Barry Bennett's. He has a covered bridges route down there. And anyway, put it together and put it out there. Hey, show up on Saturday if you want to go. And we were camping the night before down at Jesse Owens State Park, which is actually the only Ohio state-owned property you can camp for free for now. I think they're probably started charging for too long. But anyway, we got to this campground, and there's 2 people camping. I was like, hey, there's going to be 2 people on this ride, other than myself and our little crew. And the next morning, I was talking to them, and then I get a phone call from my dad who was there, and he's like, Brad, you got to get up to the bucket. There's 20 people here. I'm like, there ain't no 20 people. I showed up there. There was 15, 17 people there, and it was the most picture perfect day. I mean, just peak foliage on the trees, and the group stayed together. That was the biggest thing I was worried about. I was like, man, it's just too many people, but we all stayed together. We all had a great time. And a lot of people are like, hey, this is great because, I can't make it out to ride, a section, or, I got to park my trailer here and then got to figure out how to get back. And I was like, well, shoot, maybe I can make some loops and I can add some things that I couldn't put on the regular, main trail or whatever. Yeah. And so I put a couple together. I wanted to do one for a few of the different sections, especially the good ones. I mean, section probably 3 through 6 are probably top notch trails or sections in Ohio. And section 1 I was staying away from because Southern Ohio Adventure Loop's over there. So, you can just ride that route. And, but yeah, just started putting those together and put together a little camping ride down at Lake Vesuvius, down in Ironton, Union of Wayne, and had a lot of people show up, and that's kind of how the loops came together.
That's awesome.
So do you plan on primitive camping along your goat route for the most part?
Yeah. So the start and the end of each section, obviously besides the river and the lake, I really wanted to highlight Ohio's state parks. This year is actually the 75th anniversary of the Ohio Department of Natural Resources.
Nice.
And, and Ohio is one of the few states in the country that, offer free entry into the state parks. So, what a better way than to highlight something great in Ohio than the state parks. And it's nice too on a few of them because you have a lot of them have lodges too. Like Shawnee has a lodge, Mohican has a lodge. So the hotel people and the camping people can all be in harmony because there's multiple things offered. But I do like dispersed camping. Like section 2. Yeah, section 2. There's definitely some good spots and in the Wayne down, and there's 3 units of Wayne National Forest. So I mean, there's good dispersed options in either of them, and then state parks with the showers and all that for the people that like to take showers.
Yeah.
Which I am one of those people. Just, I like to disperse camp too.
I gotta say though, if you're out there on the trail, like you said, 150, 200 mile hard day in the saddle, so to speak, man,
Yeah.
nothing beats a hot
Yeah.
shower at the end of
Says
that.
those times we go out
Right.
and do Brandywine and
Yeah.
get out there, get pretty dirty, get pretty sweaty, and then slither in your sleeping bag like a grub at the end of the
Yeah.
day, still dirty. So
Yeah.
less than ideal.
Brad, does
Yeah,
your loop? I mean, I know obviously it's tailored for us in our discipline, but I know a lot of loops these days and a lot of routes, GPX files are also kind of shared with the overlander community and the off-road community. Is this something that those type of people could do too, or is that more tailored for the motorcycle crowd?
Yeah. So the whole route and the loops were made for any street legal vehicle who chooses to recreate responsibly. So we don't want the partying, people.
Yeah.
I, don't like them people. But yeah, it's gravel roads, forest roads, rural country roads. So it's not something that I would think would be particularly exciting for. I mean, it's not 1,000 miles of ruts and rock climbs and all that. But if you're somebody who wants to just go on an easy, country cruise or put the family in a 4Runner or something, then it'd be a good, overland route for sure. And also a, kind of a connector really between some of the cool overlanding areas, and definitely have future plans for, some, Benton County here in Ohio is kind of one of the hidden secret overland meccas, maybe throwing a little, hey, if you're an overland, person, take this little alternate, section and you'll really get something out of it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's definitely made for as many people as possible. Cause I mean, the idea is to get, folks out checking out things they wouldn't have seen by going to the mall or Cedar Point or something.
Brad, if somebody's out there and say they're kind of in your situation, how you were, you decide you have a really good riding area. Maybe there are some trails or routes that but some of those connector roads to maybe put together your own style of loop or GPX file. What kind of advice would you give a first-time person that's trying to put something together like that? What were some of the things that you learned along the way that may help somebody else out?
Yeah. I would say don't, put 100% of your trust into Google Maps or Gaia, that the road is not a private road, it's public. I've only been caught on a private road once, obviously not, malicious, but I like to have a few different map sources. I use a DeLorme, atlas there, Gaia, USGS Topo Maps, the auditor's site, for the county can tell you if the road's open or closed, but just multiple map sources, is definitely useful. But really just figure out what you're trying to do. Like I don't say what's the message you're trying to convey, but like with the goat, right? I want to tell people why Ohio is a significant, place, why Ohio is, not just a great place to be from, but also to be. So I wanted to really take people on a journey through just really the best off the beaten path things. So if you're making a route, I mean, don't just make it just to say you made one. I mean, highlight a cool area, feature a cool hill climb or a challenge to overcome. So just really tell a story, with the route, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah, that does.
That's a really
great.
cool concept.
Yes, it is.
You made a great point about not putting too much faith in Google Maps, Google Earth, Gaia, etc. Local to us is Monongahela National Forest, and I grew up in Elkins, which is very, very close to it. Spent a lot of time there, and I've seen a lot of instances on Adventure Rider and similar services where people offer routes through there they've clearly never ridden that
Right.
This road's abandoned. This road dead ends at some guy's farm. These are fire access roads that have never been open in my 29
Yeah.
years on Earth. So it definitely come
Yeah.
back to bite you.
And Gaia has definitely been known to do a little auto correcting. You know, you're 50 miles down the thing, and Gaia says, "Oh, I'm going to snap to this road," you know, instead of this one. And there may have accidentally been a time that I took somebody through a horse camp. So my bad on that, Jay, if you're watching.
Yeah,
but yeah, you just got to get out there and test ride it and make sure you can do it before you send people through the gauntlet, you know.
All right, Brad, we got a little segment we like to do here on the show that just helps our viewers get to know you a little bit better and helps us as well. So lend us your ears and grab your beers. It's time for the six pack. Six pack questions is brought to you by no one because we don't have a sponsor for it yet. So if anybody's out there and wants to sponsor a segment on the show, feel free.
Please.
Here we go. First one up, buddy. Favorite trail tunes? What do you like to listen to while you're out riding?
Oh gosh, besides the wind, man, I'm a big country bluegrass guy. That's
Sure.
the Nashville in me. Down at the station inn, listening to a band like Old Crow Medicine Show.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I'm an Old Crow guy through and through.
Cool. Next one up, Trevor.
Dream bike.
Well, I tell you the KTM 890, you know, was a dream bike, but man, I'll tell you that 1300 GSA or the what do they call it, the Pan Bavarian or
I kind of coined that phrase on Ian from Big Rock Moto's YouTube channel. That comment got a lot of likes on there.
Thing looks like a tank, man. Yeah, give me one of those.
Yeah. All right, next up, what's your favorite terrain to ride in?
Man, I love a little like Smoky Mountain 500, like embedded rocks, you know, just nothing that's going to make you sweat too much, but just going to make you think a little bit. Got to choose the right line. And I love just popping the front end up over a nice little rock. And yeah.
Sweet.
It's a favorite pastime.
Yep. Definitely in our area. It's nothing but rock.
Yep.
Right.
Next up.
So besides bugs in your teeth, what's your favorite trail snack?
So I always try to get something salty and sweet, and kind of one of my hidden things I like is I'll go to the store and I will buy the most kid themed like fruit snacks pack. Like I'll get some Dino fruit snacks or something, and just make people, what's this? Is this guy eating the Dino fruit snacks? Fruit snacks all day.
You know what though? I kind of subscribe to that too. I always got some type of gummy candy on me as well in my bag. And it's funny, the people that make fun of you for that, they're always the ones like a half hour later, like, hey, you still got those gummies? Like, can I get some of those?
Right.
Last but not least, if you can only do 2 mods to a bike, what would they be?
Oh boy. You'd have to do a skid plate, for sure. Really, probably good suspension, nothing worse than bouncing around like you're, trying to get 8 seconds in the rodeo. You want to be nice and stable out there.
Good. That was the 6-pack. Thanks for doing that for us, buddy. Let's move on a little bit here. So what are some of your future plans that you'd like to do down the road, either event-wise, maybe tour-wise, or just with the goat?
Yeah. So Lost at Last, when I started it, I was going through a pretty tough time in my life, just really down on my luck and self-esteem in the gutter and stuff. And I envisioned Lost at Last as a way to help people, out of the rut, and get them find some joy in, whatever you're doing or a hobby you pick. And of course, the Great Ohio Adventure Trail has taken most of my time the last year and a half. But someday, I would like to get back into really just helping folks, and I'm looking to, maybe start like a nonprofit down the road and put together some rides for folks that just need some time away from the distraction of life. So that's definitely in the future plans. As far as the trail's concerned, definitely I've been out and about making some improvements, finding some cool roads I didn't know about before. So definitely want to add some of those to it, add some waypoints and POIs and things like that. Because right now the GPX file is just the route, mainly because I wasn't very good at using Gaia / Basecamp, but I figured it out. So, put some waypoints in and really help people and, know when to stop and all that. And really just leading people on rides, trying to put together, some events. Obviously Whalen Wayne weekend is the King Rally here in Ohio. And if I could do something that's, kind of a little brother, to that, maybe in a different area, bring some folks together at, different time of the year and all that, just to, because that's what people like doing. A lot of it's part of the community too. Just,
Yes.
One of my favorite parts of Whalen Wayne is just linking up with people I didn't get a chance to run into a whole lot. Like, like my buddy Irish, like, oh, hey man, like good to see you again.
Hang out with him at the 24-hour rally here next week. So excited about that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And a darn good rider too, I remember he led a ride at Whalen Wayne last year, and I was too scared to go on it. But I just remember he walked up. He's like, "If you got pannier bags on your bike, you ain't going." I was like, "This guy's serious."
So I think it was last year. Yeah, it was last year. I got to go with Chris Burke, who puts on the Blackwater Adventure Rally down in Iron Elkins, and do a little pre-riding on his what they call the Train Tunnel Challenge loop. And I talked to Irish on the internet a few times. He's good buddies with Marcus Yonker, who I'm buddies with. It's just funny how everybody knows somebody. Like we're all connected in some way. But I never got to ride with him, and I see this Yamaha T7 with cheetah print graphics on the tank. I'm like, who in the hell is this guy? And I figured out real quick who he was. So shout out Irish.
Yeah. Great guy. But yeah, the future is looking bright too. And especially with, everything has come out of COVID with more people looking to get away from the distractions and of course the political culture we live in. I am so glad that nobody talks about politics at any group rides, or I'd kick them out, if they did, but nobody talks about that stuff. It's just, you could have $1 million in the bank account. You could have negative $1 million in the bank account, and we're all there just trying to get through the same rutted uphill. Or
it's a great equalizer.
Yeah, we've talked about that a bunch on this show, that dual sport and ADV riding is such a great melting pot because you really have no clue what backgrounds anybody come from. We ride with people who, be frank with you, don't have two pennies to put their name together, and then we've got doctors, lawyers, and it's millwrights. Yeah, unfortunately,
right.
But it's such a cool, awesome thing to be a part of, to see how much motorcycling is a universal language that brings everyone together. It's just so cool.
Yeah, I agree. Motorcycling, dual sport riding, etc., is one of the few hobbies where when somebody first meets you, they aren't asking, "What do you do?" Like, what do you do for a living? Like, I have to box you into your profession in my head. It's talking about gear, talking about bikes, terrain, riding styles. Not once has somebody tried to strike up an initial conversation of, well, so where do you work?
Right. Yeah. Somebody asked me one time where I work, because they were like, "Man, I always see you out and about." I'm like, "Well, I'm a boring corporate man, but I just get vacation and they let me go." So it's kind of like Saving Private Ryan, when they were trying to like figure out what Tom Hanks did for a living or whatever. Try to do at the next event, just try to figure out what one of you guys does for a living or something. Be great.
Well, Brad, I know that you also help with some events as well. I did get to see that you did some sweep riding at one of Kane's events. Is that something else that you like to do with your spare riding time, kind of give back and help some other events as well?
Yeah. I'll tell you, Kane Wagner and Appalachian ADV. What a great ambassador for not just Ohio, but Pennsylvania and the community as a whole. I mean, he does so much work to, he puts on clinics and rallies, and he supports the big potluck that Adventure Riders Ohio does every year. And he asked me to help him out, sweep up in his Allegheny backcountry adventure loop. And I mean, I couldn't say yes fast enough, because I was like, man, like after all you've given me personally, I mean, yeah, I'd be happy to help. And boy, that was a blast too. Well, my first worry was like, okay, I can't like fall over a bunch of times, or I gotta look good, don't look bad in front of Kane, but yeah, what a great experience, and just great events that he puts on, and I'm definitely happy to help support anybody. I know, I've talked to Chad Warner a little bit about doing, leading a ride at Whale and Wayne, just to help out, or heck, I'll go set up some tents or something after everything that guy's done for the community. But yeah, I'm available, any place, anytime. But yeah, great experience overall. Just seeing how other people do it too. I mean, just the way, especially with the newer riders, the one that we did in Pennsylvania was a beginner to intermediate loop, and we had some beginners, and it was really rewarding to me to see how Kane really taught people as we went along, and how these beginners got better as time went along. And to me, I was like, man, what a great, teacher, and what can I learn from just how he interacts with others, and yeah, love to help out.
Awesome. Yeah, he was a great guest. I love talking to
Yeah,
Kane. He's a good
it
dude.
was.
Yeah, like you said too, seeing people come and ride with you and improve their skills over time is something that is super rewarding. The guy next to me here, I remember when you first started out, and you weren't really a squid or anything, so to speak, but you can keep up. You can keep up with the old man now.
Yeah, I had a lot. Well, that might be a downgrade in your capabilities as opposed to an upgrade of mine. But yeah, I got into it kind of late in life, comparatively. Like a lot of the guys I ride with naturally been doing it since they were very young, like 5 years old and whatnot, and racing. And I didn't have that background, but yeah, I was one of those guys showing up and eager to learn.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Brad,
well, the first.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, I'm right there with you. I was 30 years old, and first time I hopped on the DR, I mean, I'm like, oh yeah, I just released this thing, and it goes. And I'm lucky I didn't take my neighbor's front wall out of their house. I just went in a straight line, and luckily I remembered that this hand was a brake.
Well, you did a lot better than most.
Yeah.
When I went to pick up my first bike after I got out of college, I was so unconfident in my ability to ride one around that I had the guy I bought it off of test ride around the parking lot for me. just to prove it would start cold and run right and everything. And then once I got it home, then the process started learning how to use the clutch and all that stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Brad, we're getting ready to start wrapping up things here just a little bit, but I do have a question for you. Where do you see the future of our sport maybe 10 years from now? Do you see it maybe growing, declining? Is it going to start going electric? Or are we going to find some of these manufacturers are able to extend the range on these electric bikes? Where do you see the future of our sport?
Yeah, I definitely think we're on the precipice of something. It's either something good or something not so good for the sport.
Yep,
And the reason I say that is, I mean, obviously it has been tremendous growth, in the adventure motorcycle community. I mean, when Harley Davidson comes out with an adventure bike, I mean, it's growing. But with the popularity, you also get a lot of danger losing some access to some of these unmaintained roads or trail systems. I mean, look what happened in Moab, and all those trails lost out there. And I think the public opinion is out right now. And I believe the San Rafael Forest out in Colorado or Utah. Sorry, I can't remember which one. So I think there's a lot of places in danger of losing, but you also have, I know everybody likes to pick on the side-by-sides, but it's the side-by-sides. But I mean, everybody's got their bad apples, but you also have homeowners that live on some of these roads that unfortunately some people have, went through and left some beer cans or, made some big ruts. And you got some people that taken it upon themselves to enforce the law, of the road and put up their own signs and all that.
I'm
So
glad to hear it's the same there as it is here.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
there's
not
a big
glad,
road.
but
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a road here in Ohio, Stone Quarry, one of the great challenge section roads up there in Holmes County, and it's technically now like the county declared it, I guess abandoned or whatever, and the auditor site says you can't go down it. I mean, people still do, but you have things like that happening because I'm sure somebody that lived on that road went to the township meeting and was like, hey, side by side or somebody's tearing up the road,
Yep.
and nobody voted to keep it. And anyway, so there's a lot of danger too, right, of losing. That's, you got organizations like the Country Roads Coalition that are out there fighting, lobbying with the state Congress, to maintain access. As much stuff as I've bought from REI over the years, REI is out trying to shut down motorized access to a lot of places for the wildlife. And anyway, but the future is bright, right? People who choose to recreate responsibly, I think, the future is bright because, I mean, there's all sorts of different machines coming out. And as long as we continue to maintain access, to some of these places and treat it, with respect and be good stewards of the environment, I think, I mean, there's so many places to explore and see in just the United States, let alone, the world or anywhere Itchy Boots, has gone. And, but yeah, the future is definitely bright. We just, just have to just remember to be good stewards of the environment and hope our kids and grandkids, probably on their electric, zero motorcycles or whatnot, hope they get to ride the places we got to ride too.
That's you brought up something we've touched on several times on this podcast, is trying to strike that balance between sharing it with newcomers and the desire to ensure it stays open for your own enjoyment.
Yeah.
Because anytime something gets to be too popular, it typically ends in either things get watered down or stuff gets closed down to where you
Right.
can't enjoy it anymore.
Yeah, and like we said before, it's so frustrating for these government agencies or townships, state governments, whatever, taking the easy way out of just closure. Closure is not, responsible maintenance of anything. It's a cop out, in my opinion, and take the time to reach out to your legislators or your local representatives and voice your opinions, because if you don't, no one else is going to. And that's one thing that I'm super excited about. The Country Roads Coalition is having that organized membership of trying to help fight that stuff, because like you were saying earlier, these county roads and stuff, a lot of times the town owner or the house owner that lived by them, his grandpa's uncle's fifth cousin removed put a gate up 70 years ago. Well, he was in the wrong when he did it 70 years ago, and it's still illegal. And you figure that out. Well, if you've got an organized membership trying to fight against that stuff, well, Aunt Sally that goes to the town hall meeting and wants this road shut down, well, if you've got 30 other people there fighting against it, you got a better shot than nothing at all. And that was the problem with a lot of stuff around here in West Virginia was, they would do these road closures, and there was no process put in order to have to make that public knowledge. Like, there would just be a hush hush town meeting about shutting the road down, and then it was shut down. And once something's closed, you're not getting it back open again.
Right.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah, and here in Ohio, there's township roads, county roads. Obviously state routes and stuff. There's a lot of different agencies, to deal with or to fight with, and I think something too that the Country Roads Coalition does as well is a little bit of trail maintenance and cleanup. That's something I've kind of just realized of late. It's like a lot of people like to go through the mud hole, but nobody likes to make sure the mud hole isn't 6 foot deep or, a danger to society.
Yeah, that's something that we definitely try to do. And actually, the CRC's partnered with Tread Lightly, and we got a cleanup day coming up here September 21st. And one of our well-traveled county roads here in Fairmont, West Virginia, old Fort Hill, aka 19/8, heavily patrolled by side-by-side traffic with lots of aluminum garbage on the side of the trail. So we're going to try to take advantage of that and clean that up as well.
Yeah, I could definitely see a day in the future that, Lost at Last is out there with the shovel and, got a group of people and, just tamping down some dirt and making the roads great.
That's great. All right, let's get into some of these comments here. And I want to personally thank you, Brad, for coming on here again. Whenever we announce this, we got a lot more followers coming here to watch the show tonight. So if you guys are new here on the channel, please consider subscribing to the YouTube and following the page as well for more great content like this.
And all previous episodes are available on James' YouTube channel.
Yep. So if there's a show you want to see before, make sure you click on it.
And I don't know how many people are on, but I can't pay everybody for being here. So.
Well, we'll pick up the slack.
Right.
All right, here we go. Doug Walls, happy birthday, Doug. He says that he had a 73 Wombat, and the book it came with, you could order any part COD.
So, Doug, I'll pick your brain about that bike, catch up with you at the ride. But that was one of the coolest parts that pointed out in that book was you could buy hop-up parts straight from the manufacturer.
That's cool.
Suspension, engines, etc. That's a pretty cool idea.
Back in those times.
That's neat.
Mark Niggemeyer, Storm did havoc on your arrows. Uh-oh. Well, I know what I'll be doing Thursday.
Bad news.
Thanks for the update, Mark. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Heather Wilson says, hey there. How are you doing, Heather? Thank you. Don McFadden said, your dad's awesome.
Oh, there he is. Yep. That's my father. So
I got a dad just like that too, just so you know. That must be a perfect dad.
Yep. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Barry Bennett, I'll second this. I remember that's when he was talking about something.
Talk about another great guy, man. Barry Bennett. Man, every time I'm like, man, I'm gonna go, like, Barry, I'm gonna ride with you sometime. I'm going to Marietta. It's like 12 hours before I'm gonna be. I'm like, hey man, I know it's a late notice, but I'm gonna be in the area. He's there. And he's a way better rider than I am. So
and the one group chat that I was a part of for that ride with Chris Burke, he got so much crap from Marcus and Irish and everybody else all the time. It's like he was a punching bag, poor guy.
Yeah.
Greg Blakey, DR650 is a gateway drug. Yes. Yeah, we know all about that, Greg.
Oh yeah.
Marcus says DR650 is the best bike ever made. Random guy at a gas station in Elkins. I believe that. That sounds like something a random guy at a gas station would say.
Especially in Elkins.
Yeah. Brett Barton, good dude for the ADV community here. Talking about you, brother.
Yeah, thank you, Brett. Thanks for joining.
Shane Nicely, Brad's a great dude. Always a pleasure riding with him.
Shane, that's Shane's great ADV, and he had a little whoopsie daisy on the bike. Going to be out for a little bit. Shane, get better soon, brother.
Good shout out. JY, I remember the horse camp well.
Yeah, I sent this guy right through a horse camp, and he and Jay too. Let me tell you a quick story about Jay. He does local route ADV, and we had texted a little bit, and I rode the goat for the first time last year. I filmed the series I did on YouTube and everything, and we texted back and forth. He's like, "Hey, show me your location. I'll come find it." Well, I was broken down at Shawnee State Forest at the end of the first day. And I'm like in the woods. He's like, are you camping there in the middle of the thing? And anyway, I made it down to Shawnee campground, couldn't figure out the bike. And here comes this dude on a GS popping up over the hill in a full white Klein Marrakesh. And I'm like, it's an angel on a BMW, And he had every tool known to man. And he saved my trip and has been one of my best ADV friends ever since. So great guy right there. Sorry about the horse camp, man.
That's a great story. Doug says, man, they were ahead of the game. Talk about the Hodakins.
Yeah, I agree.
Your dad says, I really enjoy the history Brad talks about.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Doug Walls says, good show. Thanks, Doug. And Tammy McFadden, Brad's stepmom is awesome too.
Oh, yep. There's the whole family. Grandma, where you at? Come on, leave a comment.
All right.
Great.
Well, we're going to get into our last segment here, so stick with us here, Brad, real quick. And it's everybody's favorite, Had to Lay Her Down.
Did you run into some clippings? Did Barb take the kids? Well, Hoss, maybe you had to lay her down.
This week's Had to Lay Her Down comes from our good buddy from the show, Professor Dan Farnsworth, a.k.a. Dan the Rescue Man.
Our professional optometrist.
So Dan got to perform another rescue. That's why we call him Dan the Rescue Man.
Dan the Rescue Man.
So let's read through it here. Dan says, so I got a big bear hug today from a 67-year-old Harley rider. That's kind of terrifying sometimes. I was on the way back from the 7th annual Thunder Ridge Primitive Skills Gathering in Virginia and took the long way home over the Blue Ridge Parkway. There was a Harley rider in front of me that seemed to be having a hard time riding. He went off the road and went down an embankment with some weeds, and his handlebars were pointing down the hill. I stopped and helped him and get the bike up, and he had no idea what to do from there. I started it, gave it gas, and gently fanned the clutch and got it back up on the road for him. He was pretty happy about it. Sure, pictures don't do that justice. That does look a pretty steep bank.
That's no easy task, getting a heavy slick tire Harley back up a grassy hill.
Mm.
So thanks, Dan, for rescuing the Harley guy from the clippings. We appreciate that. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us tonight here on Tallboys and Trackmasters. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Make sure, like we said, to subscribe and follow. Brad, is there anything you want to leave the people with before we sign off tonight?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity and to be here. And hey, if you're not doing anything this weekend here, there's a pretty good 304 detour going on.
Yeah, we're pretty full up. Might take some last minute
Stragglers. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Oh yeah, and before we sign off here, Brad, stick with us here. I'm gonna take you off here real quick, but we'll talk right after the show. Okay.
Awesome. Yep. Thanks, everybody.
Hang tight.
Thanks again.
All right. So, like I said in that post there on the FDSR page, I'm going to do a 304 detour update here. Real quick, just give you a brief rundown of what all is going to happen. So, gates open Friday at 5 o'clock. You can bring your campers. Remember that we have primitive camping. We have room for the campers, but there are no camper hookups. There is a bathroom and water on site. We're going to do a slow race on Friday night. So the winner of that will get a $25 gas gift card. And we're also going to show a couple films on a projector in the main building there on Friday evening. Saturday morning is the start of the hard loop. The hard loop this year is 2 50-mile loops. The first loop you'll do is the Halleck loop. It contains 3 of the 4 private property sections and has the least amount of asphalt of the 2. You'll come back to camp after that for lunch. You're going to have hot dogs, chips, and some other little goodies there. You're going to take off after that and do what's called the Tigert Loop. Now, the Tigert Loop is going to beat the crap out of you at the very start, and then it's going to get way easier for a while. There is more asphalt on the Tigert Loop than the Halleck Loop.
There's even a little bit of nice scenery added in towards the end.
There is. So make sure, and it's on the roll chart when you guys are doing the Tigert Loop, that you stop and check out Valley Falls there. It's a really cool trail that goes up right behind the backside of the state park. You're going to loop around back into Fairmont again and do Marks Molehill. Now, let me go ahead and say this out there out loud. If you guys are coming this weekend and you're on a big adventure bike, do not even attempt Wolf Haven Tree Farm or Marks Molehill. You will not even make it through the first couple of sections. Don't try it. Now, Travis's section, which is the second private property section, it's mandatory. You have to go through it. It's not bad. Chip Schaefer's, you could probably get a big bike through if you're adventurous enough.
Yeah, I think so. If you're good at crossing logs.
Yeah. And Saturday night, once you get back to camp, we're going to have dinner for everybody. Good friend Mike Heston, DJ Distract, is going to be playing some music there Saturday evening. And then Sunday morning, we'll have breakfast for everybody starting about 6 o'clock. And we're going to do the easy and intermediate loop. Now, my father wanted me to inform everybody that's coming on the easy loop that the easy loop is probably the hardest it's ever been this year, but that doesn't mean that it's super challenging. It's just more off-road, which from the feedback that we've gotten from you guys the last 4 years is something that you've wanted. So they'll be doing that. We have GPX files available on site for all that. Please bear with us, as this is the first time that we're going to do this, of offering the GPX file on site. Maybe some technical difficulties. I'm fully expecting it. So bear with us on that.
Additionally, the hard loop is roll chart only. There is no GPX file for the hard loop.
Yeah, no GPX file. It's guided with the roll chart. We have arrows in the woods. There's yellow arrows spray painted on the road intersections. There's no reason you should get lost on the hard loop. Just pay attention and follow your roll chart. Trying to get everybody back to camp Sunday by 4 o'clock, so we know that those that have traveled far away to get there can get back home. It's going to be a hot one. It's going to be dusty. Please hydrate. Prepare yourself.
Yeah, hydrate. Get plenty of electrolytes.
Yeah.
Make sure you eat.
Yes.
And
remember, it's not a race. It's a dual sport ride. Don't be that guy that just goes out and blitzes and tries to get it done in an hour and a half.
you ain't first, you're last.
You're not going to have a good time.
And be up on your air filter maintenance. I'd expect a lot of dust.
It's going to be bad. We're getting some rain this evening and rain all day tomorrow.
Yeah.
It still won't be enough.
I don't know if it's enough to offset a month of 90-degree temperatures.
Every water crossing that we have has like 0 to no water in it, so it's all rock gardens now. So that's exciting for some people, I guess. Yeah. But
if you're into that.
So yeah, looking forward to seeing everybody this weekend at the 304 Detour. Next show is going to be an exciting one.
It is.
We're going to have Jerry Bain and some representatives from Tread Lightly on to talk about, giving back to the community, giving back to the trails, trail maintenance, and making sure that the stuff you ride on is cleaned up and stays open. So we're excited about that episode.
Yep, agreed.
And that's going to do it for us here tonight. Thanks again for everybody for tuning in. And as always, we'll see you in a couple Tuesdays from now.
Thank you.